Welcome in to the 48 Minutes podcast on Believe, presented by BetOnline. I'm Ross Geiger, the former NBA video coordinator, and I'm joined alongside Bruce Bernstein, our four-time Emmy Award winner, who spent more than 3 decades at ESPN producing NBA shows, SportsCenter, and soaking up knowledge from the best hoop analysts in the business. Also joining us is the 2-time Emmy Award winner, Michael Worldby Freer, who's a senior writer at StatFactor, specializing in writing advanced statistical NBA reports for various announcers across the league. And tonight, we're lucky enough to have another Hoop Hall of Famer joining us, the legendary Peter Vecsey. This is episode number 142, the Maxi Kleber episode, as the now former Dallas Maverick wore number 42 for all 8 seasons with the Mavericks. But he won't be wearing number 42 in LA, as the Lakers retired the number in 1995 in honor of Lakers legend James Worthy. One quick reminder before we get started. The biggest betting weekend of the year is finally here, which means more updated odds and props for Super Sunday. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. We have hundreds of prop bets, MVP odds, and exclusive in-game live betting. BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion, whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor. BetOnline offers you everything and more to enhance your game day experience. Visit the website today and make the game day action count a little bit more. BetOnline, the game starts here.
There have been countless adjectives used to describe this week's guest, Peter Vecsey. Legendary tops the list. There's also caustic, sarcastic, hilarious, and honest in capital letters. In many ways, he's the most impactful hoop journalist of our time. Peter's journey paved the way for reporters like Adrian Wojnarowski, Mark Stein, Shams Charania, and countless others. After leaving the Green Berets in 1967, he started covering the old New York Nets of the ABA for local newspapers and building his career from there. He made his mark at the New York Post, writing a must-read NBA column for many, many years. He's been a constant presence on multiple platforms, most notably on NBC back in their NBA heyday. He was the recipient of the Kurt Gowdy Media Award from the Basketball Hall of Fame in 2009. I could take up half the show just with the intro, so we're going to begin with this. The greatest nickname ever created was created by Peter Vecsey for Joe Barry Carroll, or Joe Barely Cares, in your words. Also, didn't you dub some Celtics dude Larry Legend?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to say the best nickname I ever came up with, it definitely is Larry Legend. Everyone accentuates the negative nicknames I came up with, and Joe Barry Apathy was one of them. Joe Barely Cares was another one of his. But you know what? When he wrote his book, he had a whole page that talked about me, and he was pretty nice about it, truthfully. I don't know if you know the story, but when I was getting into it with him and had branded him those 2 nicknames, and we would definitely not have anything to say to each other when our paths crossed. But Julius Erving set up a meeting with us in Philadelphia after a Sixer game. We went out to dinner. He wanted to put us together. And so I did. Yeah, okay, fine. And then we had the dinner, and during the dinner, he complimented me on a book that I had supposedly written about Howard Cosell and about boxing. And I said, no, you got me mixed up with my brother George. And he looked at me and he goes, "You mean there are 2 of you motherfuckers?"
That's awesome. That's very good stuff.
I mean, after that, it was all good.
Awesome stuff. Great story to get us started here tonight, Peter, and thanks for joining us.
Sure.
Of course, it was a busy weekend. We had a massive trade go down this past Saturday night as the Dallas Mavericks traded Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers in exchange for Anthony Davis. My first question to you is just, after learning the news, what was your reaction?
When I first saw it, I thought it was not real. Initially, not too long, but I'm saying, what a surprise. I was trying to put myself in the position of covering the NBA right now and not getting a whiff of something this big. And I understand, and I've always told reporters, young reporters, when they start out, and even guys like Stein when he was making it and stuff, that you can't get every story. And if your editor doesn't understand that, well, then you're in big trouble because you can't get every story. But this story evaded everybody.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to, think about, like, what if I was covering the league? Would I have been able to get, a whiff of it? And I do believe I would have, because I have, even to this day, I'm retired 12 years now, but I have a source that's embedded with the Lakers, and there were three teams involved, so I think that I would have gotten something ahead of time, because it had been going on. I think the talk had been going on a week or two. But whatever, nobody got it. Even the guys that are getting big money, didn't get it. And so, as an editor, I would understand that it was huge. I think that it's the first trade of this magnitude, that neither of the major people, whether it's Luka or Davis, they didn't know about it,
No.
or their agents. I think that's an NBA first. I really do. Like back in the day, everybody's been trying to come up with the biggest trades of all time and blah blah blah. But all of them have been the players, the participants have been involved. We can go back. We can go back to the Alcindor asking to be traded from Milwaukee, and I was on to that one. I written about several, well, maybe at least a couple. I've looked it up recently. Couple of columns I about it. And Wayne Embry was the general manager of the Bucks at the time, and I was at the Daily News then. And he denied it. You New Yorkers, you're always making up shit. Blah blah blah. And well, he's right, but we don't want to go there. And then it happened. I didn't have it when it happened, but my point is that Alcindor, he was totally involved in it. He asked for it. He didn't demand it, but he said, my contract's up in a year. It's best for everybody if you get me out of Milwaukee. So all the big trades. You mentioned the New York Post is where I really started to get a name. But I was at the Daily News, and I was covering the ABA, and I was covering the Knicks. I joined the Knicks as a writer right after their championship year in '74, but I covered part-time. And one of the biggest stories that I had in those days was Julius Erving being sold to the Sixers. That was the front page of the Daily News, and and the back page and inside. And I still have a message from the executive editor of the paper telling me, what a great job I did. So there were plenty of trades that I broke as a Daily News person. But I was covering all sports in those days.
Right.
I was doing a Mets series. When the year that they won the championship. I was doing boxing in Polish boxing in New Jersey, and the track meet at the Garden, and they made you do everything. And thank God when I got an offer to join the Post, and I was given the column, come and write a column about the NBA. It was I was so glad I didn't have to worry about covering sports that I knew nothing about. And I always told the Post, if you ever want to get rid of me, just put me on hockey. And I will be gone that day. I will quit. But I take great pride in the fact that I was the first sports writer, a columnist in the country that covered exclusively one sport. Now, Peter Gammons was right there with me. He might have beaten me by a few months, or we might have been right at the same time. But so it was either Gammons at the Globe or it was me, but there was nobody else. And so it took years for the other newspapers to react to that, and they realized that I was kicking ass because I only had to concentrate on one sport. So I was able to, go around to every team and get to know the players, the coaches, the GMs, the trainers, the referees, especially the cheerleaders. And yeah, so what was I going to say about it? Anyways, I shouldn't have made that joke, so I lost my train of thought. But it wasn't. The joke is true though. It cost me 2 marriages, but whatever.
Hey, Peter, about this trade, the shock value, obviously because of the surprise element that, like you mentioned, nobody saw coming. It literally happened while we were sleeping. But in terms of the principles involved, the pair of all NBA players here, and can you come up with a comparable trade involving two superstar players at this level of their careers that compares to what we had over the weekend?
Well, I think everybody on Twitter and is trying to come up with the exact same thing. That's the question. So we've all come up with trades that were big trades and stuff. And again, if you need 2 people to be involved in the trade, like I said, Julius Erving was a pretty damn big trade because it was the Nets going into the NBA. The reason there was a consolidation between the 2 leagues was to get Julius into the NBA. So that was big, but he was sold for money. So that doesn't qualify. But probably this is the biggest one. People have come up with all sorts of ones. Like Jason Kidd for Marbury or Dennis Johnson for Paul Westphal, those kind of trades. But this is huge. So again, we can analyze it. Look, I don't cover the league. I only I cover it peripherally. I have the package that I bought, so I don't have to listen to ESPN or TNT, and that was a good move this year because I've really gotten into the young players, which I had not for a number of years, and I'm glad. I mean, you follow OKC and. And then I've fallen in love with Cade Cunningham with the Pistons. I can't believe how good he is. Everybody talks about Alexander, but this kid is right there. I mean, and they're winning for the first time in a long time. Anyway, we analyzing from a distance. Again, I still get information every once in a while. Pretty good information. So I was told, everyone's trying to figure out why in the world would they trade Doncic, why? 5 years he's made all league first team, and he's in his prime, 25 years old. And but a few years ago, I was told how difficult he is. That Carlisle drove him right out of there. He couldn't coach him. And Carlisle called, early on, called Phil Jackson and asked him, how do you deal with this guy? You had to deal with Kobe. I believe they're exactly the same type of personalities. They want to take over the team. They want everything done their way. I don't know what Phil told him, but I know that call was made. And I know that Kidd had the same reaction when he took over coaching him. You don't coach him. He plays the way he wants to, and he takes the shots that he wants to, and very difficult to play with him. So to me, if you're going to have to invest $345 million in him this summer, and he's out of shape a lot. He's been out of shape. They had a lot of trouble with his fitness. He's injured. He's got a calf injury, which is a very, very difficult injury. I know from experience. My son, who's a player, he got it. He had it when he played at Kenny Smith camp back in the day, and we took him to the Giants specialist, the New York Giants specialist in New York, a week afterward. And he told my son, he told his parents, if you hadn't taken him, if you waited another week, he would never have played the way he could play again, because it's attached to the Achilles. Anyway, serious injury. Guy's overweight. he's back and forth, he's up and down. He's like Zion, not as bad as Williamson, but he's right there. And so I understand why. I understand it. People can't understand it. I say, and he doesn't play defense. So, they bought themselves a statue before they're going to make him a statue out in front of the arena. And can you imagine? Now LeBron and he are both going to be bitching about every call or non-call by a referee. Now you got two guys on the same side bitching, even when it's not. Even when the call isn't against them, or even if it's for them, they're bitching to the referee. So, I don't know. I made a joke today about how he's going to be able to get along with Bronny on the court, but I also just tweeted before I got on. I said, part of the deal is that Dallas sent LA his ball. He gets to keep his ball, so they have two to play with when he gets to LA.
Nice.
So anyway, I mean that's my assessment from afar. And had I been writing, that's what I'd be writing.
Well, you mentioned Kobe and how he has similarities with Kobe. One of the things that's not similar about he and Kobe is that Kobe always put in the work in the off season, and conditioning was always important. Same deal with LeBron. I mean, the word is LeBron spends like $1 million a year just on maintaining his body and treatments, et cetera, et cetera. Yep. So he's going to have very little tolerance for any bullshit from Luka Doncic.
Right.
So it kind of brings me back to the other side of Dallas. Why would they do this deal? Because now they're bringing in AD. I know he's close with Nico Harrison and they have a history and all that stuff. But he's injured. He's injured almost every year. He's 6 years older than Luka. I mean, what?
Well, again, from Dallas's standpoint, I just gave you Dallas's standpoint. Why did they bring in Davis? He plays defense. They've got two other centers, so he doesn't really have to play center. He can go back to power forward. He's always wanted to play with big men. The Lakers needed a big man. Everyone said they needed a big man. So what did they do? They traded their big man.
Yeah.
I mean, what the hell?
Hall of Fame big man.
Well, what the hell? I mean, but, so they've got Hayes. They've got Hayes, who's not bad, but he's a little off the wall. You could see him. He doesn't have a tolerance for too much going on that he doesn't like. But I understand what Dallas did. I really do. We're talking about staying in shape, and you're absolutely right about Kobe. The last time that I spoke to Kobe was right before I retired. I was out in LA and he asked me if I wanted to go out to eat with him. And we went out to eat, and that was not something we did often. He was separated from his wife at the time. And we went out to eat, and one of the things he stressed to me was, everybody thinks I'm an asshole. He said, but they found out who was the asshole. Wade found out who was the asshole. Pierce found out who was the asshole. And you already said it, about staying in shape. He was always pissed off at Shaq for not staying in shape. And so, that was one of the things that stood out during our conversation. And let me take it a step further. So Barkley the other day was saying something about staying in shape, and this is the guy that went to Houston. First of all, forget, he was never in. I think one season he was in shape. Seriously, one season his whole career, and that was the time he won the MVP. And they went to the finals. But when he went to Houston, Pippen was pissed off about him because he didn't stay in shape, and he came right out and said it. I remember writing it at the time. And I went down to Houston when Barkley was there. So yeah. So what if Doncic doesn't stay? What Luka doesn't stay in shape the way that LeBron likes people to stay in shape? I don't know. I mean, he could be a great influence on him, and it might actually keep LeBron in the league, another year past next year. But if he doesn't. So what are the Lakers? What if he gets hurt again? What if he's overweight? They got to give him whatever. They don't have to give him as much as Dallas had to give him, but It's a problem. They're not getting a saint. They're getting a great player, but they're not getting a friction-free player.
It's definitely going to be an interesting situation to continue to monitor this year and moving forward with the Los Angeles Lakers. Peter, this has been fun. We're going to take a quick break and come back with you with more here on 48 Minutes. And we're back here on 48 Minutes. And Peter, let's now flash forward to just Sunday night, yesterday, as of taping here on Monday. And both DeAaron Fox and the Spurs got their wish as we had a 3-team deal that sent Fox to San Antonio to team up with Victor Wembanyama. You had mentioned that you are, falling for this young generation of talent that is now entering the NBA. I'm assuming Wemby would be one of those guys that you're fascinated by watching. What do you think of the pairing with Fox and Wembanyama moving forward?
Well, I'm a big fan of Fox until this year. I can see the difference. I can see the difference in his play this year. He just is not the same player. Why? I don't know. Make contract problems. He couldn't get what he wanted, so he wasn't going to re-sign. And so then there was a problem, with coach, with Mike Brown, and they fired the coach. They kept him, and now they trade him. And my thought is the next to go is the general manager. I mean, make up your mind. I mean, what do you didn't want the coach there because he got into it with your star player. Now you get rid of the star player. So things change. And also, they bring in Zach LaVine to play to reunite with DeRozan.
Yep.
I mean, seriously? Why? It worked so well for the Bulls? No, I mean, it's preposterous. Why didn't you got Fox, who, I mean, he is a hell of a player. Now, I know they got 3 number ones, and they're only going to wind up probably with 2 because of whatever situations. But why aren't you getting one of the Spurs young guys? Why you take, and they got some good young talent there. No, they're not as experienced as Zach, but he didn't work with DeRozan. And now you got Monk, who's a terrific player, and I laugh at that too. When he was in Charlotte, he couldn't get a game. And who was that coach? I forget. He got another head job after that. You couldn't find minutes for Monk as good as this guy is? Oh, no, that's right. He didn't play defense. Yeah, okay. Right, that was a reason to keep him on the bench. I mean, he is some player. So I don't know what's going on with the Kings. They had a chance a few years ago to hire either Mark Jackson or Mike Brown. The owner wanted Mark Jackson. The general manager was scared to death of him. He took Mike Brown, who had bombed in a couple other places before. I know he had a good season as the coach, won the coach of the year and all that stuff. But I've been around Mike Brown since he was in Cleveland. Good guy. Man, I don't like to be around coaches that never stop talking. He never stopped talking. Even when I was interviewing him, stop talking. All right, you told me enough. I don't want to know. But they should have hired Mark Jackson. But the owner let the general manager hire Mike Brown. Now they got Christie. And again, we didn't even mention it, but part of that Dallas deal is so. Not only did the Lakers give up their best defensive big man, they gave up their best defensive Christie, the guard. I mean, he was in that deal. He goes to Dallas too. Yep. Dallas made a hell of a trade. I'm telling you, as good as Doncic is, he drive me nuts though watching him. I mean, the bad shot selection. He could take any shot he wanted from anywhere he wanted, depending, no matter how many seconds were on the 24-second clock. He could do whatever he wanted. I could have never played with him, but he could have never played with me either.
So I want to circle back. I know the guys from Archbishop Molloy. I mean, they were ballers,
No, I was calm at Molloy. I gave it up at Molloy, but as I got older, even now, my friends in the playground would say, you were way ahead of your time. I said, yeah, you're right. I said, now I understand why nobody wanted to play with me, because I would come down on a 3-on-1 break and pull up from 3. You know, so I get it now. You know, like I hate watching those guys play. So
I want to circle back on Zach LaVine for a minute because, okay, Sacramento, to me, I don't know what they're doing there, but I got a problem with Zach LaVine. All right. Here's my problem with Zach LaVine. He's very talented. He's put up great numbers, been an all-star a couple times. But in my opinion, he has had zero impact on winning during his NBA career. It's his 11th season. He's made the playoffs once in 2022 with the Bulls. They won a total of one playoff game in his entire career. I just think he's a fantasy player, extraordinaire, but a reality player, kind of like empty numbers.
So in other words, you're confirming what I just said.
Well, you're in a different way of saying it. Yes.
No, you're confirming it with facts. But I know what I see, and I certainly know they didn't add up to wins. Where he played, and to me, again, the Bulls. Do the Bulls know what they're doing? No. I mean, what did they get out of this? What did they get?
Their own pick. They got their own first round. They got their own first round pick back.
They got it back. All right. Well, that's important. And they got rid of a huge contract for the next few years. But still, do they know what they're doing? I mean, and their coach, I love Donovan. Donovan was the first TV interview that I ever did when he was with the Knicks, and I did it for SportsChannel, and I did it out at Hofstra. The SportsChannel had a little studio. You got your hands up.
I worked in that Hamilton House on the Hofstra campus, SportsChannel America. I was there in 1990 for doing Sports Nightly in between my two stints at ESPN.
There you go.
What a shithole that place was.
Hey, I went to Hofstra.
Sorry to hear that.
For 6 months, I played ball there for 6 months. I played freshman ball, varsity not allowed. But that's where the studio was in the gym, Calkins Gymnasium, where we played. And anyway, Donovan was my first interview. Now, he wasn't at the Knicks that long, but he's a Long Island guy, so he came over to the studio. I love Donovan, but I think it's time that he left coaching in the NBA. I think the Lakers need another head coach, ex-head coach as an assistant. They don't have enough.
Peter, talk about you reminiscing on your career here, and I wanted to lead into the fact that you were named a Kurt Gowdy Media Award winner by the Basketball Hall of Fame in 2009. I'm just curious, tell us what that honor meant to you to receive such a honor.
Well, now that you ask, about what did I get that in 09?
Yep.
Yeah, before the year was out, I had put it up for auction, my trophy that I got. I'm serious. So that's what I thought of it. I have no respect for what goes on at the Hall of Fame. I when they told me I got it, first of all, I should have gotten it 10 years before they put me in. They were putting in guys that would a joke. So I mean, Mark Heisler, who was a hell of a writer for the LA Times, he got in before me, but he told me when I got in, he said, I was really worried about being in the Hall of Fame without you, until you got in. But I told him when they called me, I said, I'm so tempted to turn it down. Came that close to turning it down, but I figured that what I could do, and I might have said this during the speech that wasn't well received, that it gave me a chance to have a voice in the Hall of Fame meetings that would get players and coaches into the Hall of Fame that I thought deserved it. And I mentioned a lot of their names during my speech, and I was included for two years straight, and got most of those guys into the Hall of Fame. We're talking Dennis Johnson and Jamal Wilkes and a lot of ABA guys. After the 2 years that I was on the committees with Colangelo in the room, who runs the Hall of Fame, he kicked me out because I didn't listen to what he said. When I came into the room the first time, he said, so just listen to me, play by what I say. And I'm saying, what? Like, really? So I didn't play his game. So anyway, he didn't bring me back into that room where he had like 9 people nominating. So, but he did put me in charge of the ABA committee, and we had that for a number of years, and we got into the Hall of Fame. Many of the people that deserved it, like Mel Daniels and Artis Gilmore and Slick Leonard and Roger Brown and Louis Dampier. And I've told this story many times, but so once we put Louis Dampier in, so we had a seven person committee, and it was like Gervin, uh, David Thompson, Costas, Hubie Brown, and I can't think of the other one. But so that was our committee, and the last one we put in was Louis Dampier, and Colangelo told me afterward. He said we're breaking up the committee because Louis Dampier does not belong in the Hall of Fame. Now, you want to get on my wrong side, man. Don't be knocking those ABA players. We had 7 guys in the room that felt Louis Dampier deserved. Led the ABA all time in scoring. Led the ABA in assists all time. Was part of Rupp's runs in 1966 that when Pat Riley was there. He was the second star that lost to Texas Western in the finals. You're telling me he doesn't deserve to be in the So I'm pissed off to this day, as you might be able to tell today. So I I have no use for that Hall of Fame. Again, I'm bringing up any telecast I can. Casey Jones is not in the Hall of Fame as a coach. Now, Bruce, you're a Celtic guy. You seem to know statistics. Do you know that he's got one of the highest winning percentage of all coaches? Do you know that?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
So he's got two championships.
2 championships.
Okay. Yep. Took the Bullets to the finals in another one, right? Was the assistant coach to Sharman when the Lakers won the championship. Like, are you serious? So he was voted top 15 coach recently, when they did the top 75 players, they did the top 15 coaches. He was voted top 15 coach, but he's not in the Hall of Fame as a coach. You tell me what's up.
Well,
where are the writers? Where's the media? What the hell? Where are the Boston writers? They should be on Colangelo every goddamn day, and Grant Hill now. What the hell's going on?
Well, my good friend, the late great Bill Walton, absolutely raved about KC. When I worked with Bill at ESPN, I live in the greater Hartford area, and KC lived in the same town that I lived in, which is West Hartford, Connecticut. And I used to run into him in the Whole Foods, because we lived probably about 3 miles apart from each other. The nicest man, the most wonderful human being, a great singer, a great man. His daughter is somebody I follow on Twitter. Her name is Bryna. She's a very passionate Celtics
she's
fan.
on my Twitter also. But you didn't mention one thing about his coaching. So he, the guy was not. Bill Fitch got fired by the Celtics because the team he just turned the team off. Everybody, including Bird, and
McHale hated him too.
No, I'm saying the team. Everybody hated him. So Bird. He was KC was a different kind of coach. Well, I was going to say Bird thought Fitch was a great coach, though. He thought he was the best coach he ever had. Because he was very smart during the game, blah blah blah. But he was a tyrant. So KC was not that kind of coach, but KC was smart. He knew how to get around people. Bird told me a great story one time about Dennis Johnson won a championship with the Sonics, was the MVP, right? A couple years later, Lenny Wilkins trades him to I mentioned it before, for Westfall to the Suns, right? And labeled Dennis Johnson a cancer. Labeled him a cancer. And to this day, I have no use for Lenny Wilkins. It's the only championship he ever won in his goddamn coaching career. He almost has as many losses as wins. And that's one of the reasons he had a hard time getting in the Hall of Fame. So I'm going to get to my KC. So in Phoenix, McLeod didn't like the way that Dennis Johnson practiced or didn't practice. He messed up a practice. He played a lot of minutes. I don't know what went on in Phoenix, particularly, but Jerry Colangelo told me when I brought it up about, trading him, he put it right on McLeod. He gave him up. He said, yeah, it was McLeod wanted him out of there. Not me. McLeod was the one. Traded him to Boston, where he winds up winning 2 championships. So, but KC figured him out. And this is Bird telling me this. So he wasn't great at practice, but but Russell didn't have to practice for Auerbach. Auerbach was smart enough to tell Russell to sit down. You play all the minutes. Told everybody else, if you don't like it, play as well as he does, produce as well as he does, and you won't have to practice either. That was not brought up when Iverson didn't want to practice, but it was the same kind of thing. But anyway, so Dennis Johnson comes into the gym one day, and Bird had told KC, I said, I don't think Dennis wants to practice today. He's gonna fuck up our practice. So KC calls him over. He said, Dennis, you played a lot of minutes. You did a great job last game. He said, why don't you just sit on the side and watch the practice? And Dennis thought he got over. But as Bird says, no, we got over. We got over on him. But that's how smart Casey Jones was. Anyway, that's what made him a great coach. And he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Casey followed the advice that Red Auerbach gave him as a young player. And you've heard this, I'm sure, because it's a pretty famous quote. He said to Casey, you dress British and you think Yiddish.
Nice.
Red. Nice red.
All right. Anyway, I want to circle back to the 2009 Hall of Fame inductions again, your year, but also it was memorable because of a couple of other speeches that year. Michael Jordan's speech and also John Stockton's. Now, MJ humiliated a high school teammate in his speech, which is very much on brand for MJ. But Stockton, who almost had nothing ever interesting to say to the media in all the years I covered the league, and I covered him in the finals both of the times, he never had shit to say about anything. So MJ was in character. But then Stockton comes out and makes his speech, and it was the most remarkable stream of consciousness speech that anyone ever heard from John Stockton. Do you remember those speeches, and how do you remember them?
Well, first of all, I accused Jordan of stealing my speech. I thought he plagiarized my speech. So yeah, I certainly remember his. I swear to God, I do not remember a word that Stockton said. I remember talking about Stockton in my speech. One of the things I objected to is that we had different days to speak. The writer, the media people, awards took one day, and then the other guys took the other day. We never were put next. Me, Doug Collins got in that year for the TV, and I got in, and we never got put next to those guys except at the dinner, which was spread out, in a hall. We never got a photo with them. We never got next to them the whole weekend. That pissed me off. A lot that pissed me off. But part of my speech was I told a story about Stockton. I got sent out to Utah, to Salt Lake City, for NBC to do a feature on Stockton. And it's a long trip. I go out there. We set up cameras in the gym. He sits down. I ask him 2 or 3 questions. He gives me nothing. And I said, turn the camera off. I said, John, I'm sent out here from NBC. This is a halftime interview, feature that we're doing on you. I'm all the way out here, and you're going to give me shit? I said, this is unbelievable. Now, I took a chance because he could have walked out, and NBC is going to be furious at me, but he wasn't giving me anything. So he wound up giving me stuff. He wound up giving me, fights in the driveway with his brother and stuff like that. And so yeah, he was a tough interview, boy. So I don't remember what he said.
Go back to the Hoop Hall website and click on his speech.
I will.
It was tremendous.
Okay.
There's probably nobody, from a historical standpoint, more qualified to talk about all-time greatest players or anything you want, things like that. But if we go by the notion, and I'll preface this by saying I don't necessarily go by it, but MJ and LeBron are one of the top two, if not the top two of all time. Tell me who you would
don't
think.
be putting words in my mouth.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
It's coming.
My question is, who would you consider in the next category after, say, those two, or who are some of the others that deserve to be mentioned as?
Yeah, I mean, why do you
think
those are the first two? I mean, that's wild. You're going to put that right out there. Who do I think is third? How about Kareem being number one?
Kareem is my number one pick too. I agree with you.
Oh, so why'd you go to LeBron?
I'm giving MJ being regarded by so many as number one, and LeBron at the present.
MJ's right there, but again, LeBron, and for everything he's done, and he's never done anything wrong, really, though he pisses off a lot of people. But he's only won 4 championships, and he gets knocked out how many times? Has been swept how many times? So he's not in mine. He's gonna be up there, but he's not gonna be in mine. And I'm a Wilt Chamberlain guy too. I'm a Bird guy. I mean, Bird's my favorite player of all time. So Magic has got to be up there. They were winners, and they didn't have to go, decide to play with, big time people just to win a championship. Although, it was up to the general managers to put them with great players, which both of their franchises did. LeBron chased it, which I had no problem with. I remember writing it when he chose to go to Miami. I didn't know he's a free agent; he can do what he wants. You want to play with Wade and Bosh, fine. But it doesn't put him up there as the greatest player. He's a great player. There's no getting around it. But I'll take those other guys first.
Where would you put?
And
Kobe
you know what?
On the list?
Duncan and Tim Duncan is up there too.
Peter, where would you put Kobe on the list?
Kobe's right up there. I mean, I'm a Kobe fan. There's no question. By the way, I mean, if you're watching the series on Kobe,
the CNN series.
I haven't seen it yet. No.
I got to start dialing that up.
Oh my God! No, I mean, what an unbelievable job that they did. I mean, there's so many things there that I've never seen before. And we were good. We were good. Like I said, for him to invite me out, at the end of my career, and we go out to eat, and he told me some very, very personal stuff that I've never printed. If I ever write a book, I will print it, but not for here. Yeah, I mean, again, you go, yeah. No, that ain't so,
please.
The chances of me writing a book are slim and none, so I don't think it's going to get out. But again, I take great pride again I broke the story when he was drafted by Charlotte, and I was doing TNT, and I broke the story that he was traded for Divac, which was not confirmed. This was late June. It was not confirmed until July 10th. There were many, many people, including ESPN, that did not believe my story that he was traded. And so that was huge. And TNT never had another story like that since I left. So, it was live. And so I'm really proud of that one. And he was always available for me we had each other's phones, and I could text him, and he'd be on a plane after a game, and we'd be texting. I mean, that was great stuff for me. It was private, but it was, I remember asking him one time, I still have this one on. I kept this. I asked him, I said, how'd you get the name Kobe? And, he told me it was because his parents went to a Japanese restaurant, and they had Kobe steak, and they liked it. And I told him that out of high school, I was in the Merchant Marine, and I went around the world. And one of the stops that I made was in Kobe, Japan. I said, so Kobe, I was in Kobe before your parents were thinking about Kobe. So anyway, we had a lot of fun together. He was very honest with me. I couldn't ask him a question that he wouldn't answer. I remember going out to LA a few times for NBC and doing interviews with him. And this one time, we did the interview, and it went well. And he said to me at the end, he said, is that it? I said, what do you mean? He said, is that all you got? So I said, okay, all right. So then we continued on. I asked him, a little more difficult questions. I hope I did. But I mean, that's the kind of relationship we had. He could, it was fun. It was fun being around him.
Now, Peter, how do you feel about the new 65 game minimum rule for all NBA honors? I'm curious to get your thoughts on just the new postseason awards requirement. Of course, Bill Walton won the MVP in 1978, despite only playing 58 of the 82 games. So just curious to get your thoughts on that.
I'm all for it. I think you have to play a certain amount to be eligible for the awards. I think there definitely should be something like that. I'm not for the latest thing that Adam Silver has come up with about cutting the schedule down, cutting games down to 40 minutes from 48. Will that mean players will be deducted the percentage of money also? They only have to play 40 minutes. Will fans only have to pay? Will they pay less then for less product? I'm not for that at all. It's like baseball putting a guy on second base in overtime. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
Well, why do you have to distort statistics, distort the game? The game's pretty good. Maybe you could do something about 3-pointers. Maybe eliminate the corner three. Because it's gotten so easy to hit the three. Maybe it would stop a lot of people from shooting threes. I don't know. I blame the coaches for that, for letting players who can't even shoot take threes. It's caused me to turn off a lot of games. But I'm all for the percentage. Play a certain amount. That's fine. I mean, you can go back to Walton, fine. But that was the rule at that time. The following year, the Blazers were 50-10 when he got hurt. So. I don't know if he played 60 games, but he might have played 50. But they were 50-10 anyway when he got hurt. And then, Seattle ended up knocking him off in the playoffs that year. But what else?
In recent years, the All-Star game has become an unwatchable, glorified layup line. Awful, hideous, not even real basketball. So, again, the league experiments. They changed the format this year. They're going to have 4 8-man teams, including a Rising Stars team. It'll be kind of a mini tournament. Any thoughts on that? Do you think it's going to help, or is it like just lipstick on a pig?
Well, it can't hurt because nothing could make it worse than it's been for how long. Yeah. I can't tell you the last time I would go to most All-Star games. I'm not going this year. It's too much of a trip for me at this point in my life, so I'm not going to go. But so many All-Star games in the last 10 years or so, I didn't go to the game. And you know what? So many of the executives and coaches and stuff that were there for the first couple of days for meetings, or they'll stay for the luncheon, the Legends luncheon, and then leave after that. And that's basically what I did. The games were so bad, and the dunk contests aren't much better. So I think it should be okay if the players want to put out, then they've come up with a gimmick that might work. Adding guys that aren't in the league might help, because now the players don't want to be embarrassed by those guys, and those guys they're going to play hard. So this might work. I don't know if it'll get me to watch it. It's like I watched one game of the women's league. I watched one game of that and turned it off at the half because they haven't figured it out either. Like, who in the world wants to watch 3-on-3 full court? I don't care, man, woman, whatever. It's not a game that's all you do is running and gunning, and there's hardly any defense. It's like, it's not working. At the very least, add a fourth. Make the courts crowded, a little bit crowded and stuff. And I was telling somebody yesterday about when Casey Jones allowed. This is why I want him in the Hall of Fame. He allowed me to work out with the Celtics on their practices. So they had a game after they would have their practice. They would run full court, 4-on-4. But you had to cross half court before your team could shoot. That's a tough game, especially for a writer who's, not I was in shape, but not that shape, not that kind of shape. And So I thought that was a great game. I thought, and I remember Scott Wedman playing in that game and yelling at me. He was on my team, yelling at me cross fucking half court so we can shoot. Like what is taking you? So I would like straddle half court, and step over and step back. I learned how to play that game. I don't think I ever got a shot in that game because I couldn't keep up. But the women, they got to figure that out. That's a terrible game to watch.
Well, we're going to take one quick break here, Peter, and then finish up here with some final questions right after this.
Okay.
And we're back here on 48 Minutes World B.
Yeah, you kind of alluded to who your favorite player during your time as a writer was, and Larry Bird. And I'm just
I didn't allude to it.
Yes, you did.
No, I said exactly.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. That is correct. Was he your favorite guy to interview, or was he your favorite coach to interview? And if it was someone else, why? Give us a reason why you favorite guy.
He was a great interview, whether it was one-on-one or collectively. He would have a ritual where if they were home at Boston Garden, and I absolutely miss Boston Garden. I loved going there. And I went there an awful lot during my career. So everybody would clear out, they do their interviews and stuff. And then he would go sit on the trainer's table and do the interview with everybody surrounding him. And never once that he didn't give you something that was great. He would just be so honest, So yeah, I loved interviewing him. Even as a coach, my last interview with him as a coach was in the finals against LA, and they wanted me. I think it might have been before the last game. So they had me interviewing before the game. And I remember asking him that, would it be okay to talk about, your father who committed suicide? And of course he said yes. But I was smart enough to ask him first if it was okay. And, and again, it gave me great answers. I mean, I know about his grandmother used to leave money for him and jars, in the house and stuff. And, life on the pickup truck, the garbage truck. And so, I mean, yeah, I miss not being around him. Recently, my son, he's now 37. He was, I was with him. And I saw a stack of photos that he had of people that he's taken pictures alongside in his life. He used to come everywhere with me. And one of them was with Bird. So he was maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7, something like that. And he's right next to Bird, and, a beautiful picture. And so for his birthday was December 22nd. I got in touch with Bird, who's in Florida, and I sent him the photo. And he signed it to my son. So,
Wow.
Yeah, and I surprised my son with it. So, and yeah, I really miss those days of being around them. When I traveled with the '86 Celtics, that's when I practiced with them that year on their road trip, their Western road trip. And Walton, who you mentioned, was your guy, but you know who got him into television? Do you know who got him in?
Peter Vecsey?
Yeah. Because NBC was scared to death of him, and they asked me, and I vouched for him, and that's when it started. He started NBC, and I have some Walton stories that will be in a book if I ever write it, and they're not all positive. So he on that trip he made sure that I was able to go out with him and Larry and Seasting and Carlisle. Every time we had a meal, whether it was after a game or on an off day on this trip, I would be at their table. And I mean, the stories were, I wrote a lot about it during that trip for the Post, but I have a lot more anecdotes that from that trip. And yeah, he was the Will Rogers. He was like traveling with Will Rogers. He was just phenomenal.
Bill and I we're very good friends. In fact, when we worked together at ESPN, he and Lori came to my house for Thanksgiving 2 years in a row. You know, he knows my kid, God rest his soul, knew my kids, my wife, everybody. Just one of the most amazing people. But I'm sure you've heard the story about the famous Grateful Dead concert in Worcester that he took the team on. Rick Carlisle told us this story. And he said, everyone on the team showed up except for Danny Ainge because his wife wouldn't let him go.
Right. Danny. Oh my goodness. Yeah, he would call himself Grateful Red.
That's nice. I like that.
Yeah, all right. That's what he would sign, signing pictures and stuff. I got a few from him. Grateful Red. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. So speaking of all-time great passing bigs, my last question for you. I know World B has one more, but I have one more. Nikola Jokic, definitely worthy of a 4th MVP award this year, but I don't think he's going to get it. I think the voters are going to go with Shai Gilgeous Alexander due to the classic Joker voter fatigue, whatever. Who's your choice? If the season were to end right now, who's your choice for MVP this year?
Yeah. No, you're right. I think that's what's going to happen. Also, it's like when Jordan was winning them every year, and then people got tired of that, so they voted for Karl Malone that year. But Jordan still deserved it. And I mean, Joker is again worth the price of admission. If I lived in Denver, I'd have season tickets to watch him play. I mean, he's phenomenal. Love watching Shai. I mean, just phenomenal. OKC is a phenomenal team to watch. Yeah, I mean, either or. It's nobody else. It's nobody else. I mean, like a couple of Knicks can go to the free throw line and you hear MVP, or I was watching the Pistons the other night and Cade Cunningham goes to the free throw line, they're chanting MVP. That it's not happening, And yeah, so either or, and you're right, probably Shai, but Joker will get over it.
Yeah, sure.
He's already over it.
Yeah, exactly. Embiid might not get over it, but
how about Giannis?
No.
That's Ross's boy, Giannis.
That's my guy.
Good, very close friends.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, great player, great personality, but no. I mean, first of all, you gotta be winning more. That's why OKC's winning more than anyone, basically. So, you won't get a Cavalier in there because you got 4 people who are candidates. It could be any one of 4.
Right.
And not that OKC doesn't have, but they got like 8, 9 players that are really good. It's funny. I was talking to a friend of mine in Phoenix today, and he went to the Arizona State game, and they had a little brawl there, banging, bunking heads and stuff like that. And he
Bobby
was there.
Hurley,
huh?
Bobby Hurley pulled the team, or wouldn't shake hands or something.
Yeah, they walked off.
I saw it, and my friend was there, and he said, what happened before that is that the other team cleared the back of his bench, all the players who weren't in uniform. He had cleared them 5 minutes before the game. So, I mean, Hurley didn't want any problem shaking hands and people saying stuff, and the fist fight starts. So I get it. He was smart. But anyway, when I was out there, I lived out there for a year, and my friend and I had season tickets to Arizona State. And Dort was playing for them at the time. And my friend and I used to say, like, how come we don't know who this guy is? We don't know anybody really. How come he doesn't play more? I mean, he's so athletic, but Hurley hardly played. I mean, he played, but and he was good. He's so athletic and tough and stuff. And I was saying to my friend yesterday, look at what happened. He comes out of school after that year. He doesn't get drafted. And now he's making $20 million a year. I mean, and he's a great defensive player. Oh my God! You never know, right?
Absolutely.
Never know.
Hey, Peter, for this season, in your opinion, who do you think is going to win each conference this season? Who do you think is going to eventually win the championship?
Well, let's just cut to the chase. OKC is going to win. I mean, the Celtics are going to be right there. I think they're still good enough to beat Cleveland. I think Cleveland might have to have one more year of playing together. But they're tough. I mean, they're deep. They got players who nobody ever heard of that can make threes. But I think OKC, I mean, the greatest pickup during the offseason to me was Hartenstein. And I mean, he's just so good. It's a joke how good he is. And, I know the Knicks couldn't sign him. I understand about the salary cap, but I still wonder. I don't know. I never asked, but I wonder, had they been smart enough, could they have signed him during the season last year? Could that have happened? Once the season ended, OKC outbid them, but
Yep.
he is so good. I can't believe how good he is. And then their best center has played like 2 games or something like that. So that team is deep at every position. They're well coached. They got a great attitude. Love watching them play. I love it.
Well, Peter, this has been a lot of fun. We certainly appreciate your time. We are the 48 Minutes Podcast, and we're definitely in overtime with you here tonight, but it's been a true honor. I know that you teased in a potential book. I just want you to know if that ever did come out, I'm going to pre-order it. So
all my friends say they can't wait to read the book, and I say I can't wait to read it too.
I love it. Well,
Okay.
thanks so much for your time here tonight. And for us, that will do it tonight here on the 48 Minutes Podcast on Believe, presented by BetOnline. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back with you next week. Be sure you're up to date in 48 on all things around the association. Take care, everyone.
Appreciate it.